Story 1. Ran into the guy who didn't give me a job I wanted a few weeks later in the bathroom. I had just gone to Chipotle for lunch, so I closed myself in a stall. I knew I had to go pretty bad. Just as I was about to sit down, I saw through the crack in the door the douche that interviewed me a few weeks before, who led me to believe I would be getting a promotion and moving out of my department. He went to the stall on the end. As soon as I heard his stall door close and him sit down, I unleashed the sheer fury of Chipotle in that porcelain bowl, along with loud booming toilet farts. It was truly a hellacious onslaught of sound and smell. I heard him go uck. I finished my business and rushed out after washing my hands and left him there in the reek. Ulysses Fiuza says, "This one was a shitty revenge." Wayne's brother says, "Shit man." New Aurora says, "Revenge is a dish best served smelly." Story 2, entitled Manspreading on an Airplane. Great, because I feel like being petty. On a recent flight with a friend, she had the window seat and I had the middle. We were in cattle class, so there wasn't a ton of room available. Entitled Manspreader boarded, sat down and immediately spread out. Legs wide, arms covering the whole of both armrests. I'm aware the mature thing to do is say something to him about space or the armrest being mine, but after a day of travel I was annoyed and feeling petty. 2 minutes after he settled in, he leaned forward to get something and I spread out. I'm an early 40s slender female, so I couldn't spread out the way he did, but I could lean to my right using the full armrest, and having my body kind of turned in a way I'd have to consciously avoid bumping my shoulder or leg. It apparently made him uncomfortable to bump into me, so he ended up shifting around and eventually sitting with his ankles crossed and his hands in his lap. While I'm usually more mature and accommodating, something about his entitled spread out when he first sat down rubbed me the wrong way. I remained in that position, or leaning forward with elbows sticking out, when I was looking out of the window. I noticed he tried to look a few times, but I made sure he couldn't see through my head. I kept this up for the 4-hour flight. It feels like a pointless, immature victory today, but the pettiness felt great in the moment. Edited to add, he appeared approximately 58 based on his height when we were both standing. He was slightly overweight, but not what I would consider fat, and certainly not big enough to unavoidably spill over. Even if he had these weirdly splayed hips or giant balls people keep mentioning, how does that make him entitled to the middle seat armrests? Manspreading refers to men who take up more space than necessary, encroaching on the space of the person next to them. It does not include the normal physical posture of a man sitting with his legs apart. Dystopia says, "I'm a man and gay, and I love not moving my leg when anyone manspreads next to me. Most guys will feel extremely uncomfortable when another man touches them, because homo, and in no time at all he'll retract back into his own personal space. Kind of petty, I know, but it works, and I get a kick out of it." P1 Card says, "Middle seat gets both armrest themes the rules." Green_ribbon says, "I rest my arms on top of theirs when they're using my armrest." Story 3, I got my coworker fired on April Fool's Day. To preface, I work at a firm in the southern states, in a pretty small office, about 20 people, and we're pretty unorthodox. Trivia, play mini golf inside and can watch videos while working, etc. I 25F have been here a year and Phil has been here 6 years. Our office began expanding with new hires, that include a few minorities including me, and a few other Hispanic people whose primary language is Spanish. Phil is a very religious old white man, about 58, with very traditional values and likes things to be his way. Recently, since all the new hires started, he's been very rude to some of the new hires that work here, especially the Hispanic people. He said stuff like, "Well, you can just go back to Mexico when in disagreement, and black people don't need a national anthem. If you think otherwise, then you're racist." I'm pretty nice to Phil when he speaks to me. I'm pretty sure he's very alone in this world, and I think his mental health was starting to take a toll, and I have a grandpa with dementia who's not an just to clarify lol, so I gave the guy grace. And so did the HR department in our small office. We consider him a very useful asset to the company, so our boss just told him not to talk to anybody unless it's strictly regarding work. Cause I guess his comments were small talk. Fast forward to the week before April Fool's Day, and I planned to pull a prank on a coworker. I bought a little multi-frame and was gonna place pictures of this other coworker sleeping at his desk and was gonna display it on my desk for all to see. We're friends BTW. I did all that the night before, and lo and behold, the next morning, my frame had "Jesus' risen and happy Easter" in it. Phil's doing. I love Jesus like the next person, but that was my fucking property on my fucking desk. Jesus and cussing in the same sentence, SMH. So after some thought, I wanted to pull a small, petty prank on Phil. So I placed a small piece of paper between the battery and the connection in his mouse that night. When I tell y'all, this man had little evidence bags written with red marker of the mouse, the battery, and the paper on our boss's desk the next morning. He was specifically accusing of one of my Hispanic coworkers because they've argued in the past. Phil was saying you're a fucking lying piece of shit to him, then telling our boss, he's a fucking liar. This is all heard through closed doors and over some cubicles, so I might have missed some words, but I know a cuss word when I hear one. So I went to the boss's office and told him I pulled the prank, and what happened the day before with the frame. He said it's okay, just don't mess with Phil again. Later that day, Phil was still pissed that our boss wasn't confronting who he thought pulled the prank and even some accomplices, none of which included me. They were screaming, arguing, and it was Phil's last day as he was fired. April Fools? And Phil is giving gun threats post his firing, and we had to lock our doors to any without a key for a few months. While I'm just now starting to realize the damage I caused, talk about a butterfly effect. Frangible Soul says, Phil was a bomb just waiting to go off. You all are lucky it went as smoothly as it did. Coder Joe 1 says, Phil needs a chill pill. Chris Batty says, you sound like you're much better off without him around. He sounds like toxic scum. Thanks for watching. I love you. Follow Reddit Echoes for more.